thing that came out from that is that while he was making those comments, you find out that some serving judges were clapping.
About
so that,
four
yes,
judgments in a year.
About the comments Justice Okeke was making at his magistrate session. So the implication of that is that some of them are psychologically in prison. And why should such a thing come up? And we are not hearing, and there's no official reaction. He said,
what exactly?
He said in the open that in the case against AMCOM, that a justice of the Supreme Court sent the daughter to come and dictate to him the way the issue handled the case.
Wow.
And when of course, he granted an injunction in favor of AMCOM, and of course, they now asked them to go and file to set that order aside. And when he listened to the argument from both parties, of course, he declined setting aside the order.
These are
issues, and I expect up to this moment there's no official reaction from the NJC. So what I'm saying that we should have an institutional framework. This is ridiculous and unacceptable. You have an environment like ours, an individual, for instance. There are so many instances that border on issues of this nature. You see a particular green area, an individual comes in and sells of those areas, and 10, 15 years after that he retires. And nothing happens.
But how
we want a system that will allow the government, the institution, to hunt people 50 years after they've left office.
The judiciary used to be above board, so to speak. How did it get to this point where we're now looking for a system that can stand up to its integrity or to its name?
Well, of course, it's been in the news, the appointment of judges, over the years has been giving some measure of political color. And of course, you don't expect the best from that kind of arrangement. And that is one of the indices that we have on our hands. And we must have to express some of these things from that prison. Some of these judges are individuals that have very strong political links with political leaders. And when they come into this, they don't represent the best in the industry.
So how can we extricate the judiciary from the grip of the politics?
Well, of course, there should be an institutionalized framework. In an instance like this, those of us who are in the industry, who are in practice, we know the lawyers that are good. We know the judges that are doing very well. There are judges that you have cases before them, you must be on your feet. If you are doing a case before Justice Oyewole, you will definitely not sleep. If you are appearing before our bank, of course, at the Federal High Court, you see virtually on a daily basis, he reads judgment. So there are so many judges that are working very hard. These two are just an isolated example. There are so many of them that are very good. But the problem is that the strength of any chain lies in the weakest link. If you have 2 million judges that are working hard and you have one that is not working hard, that is corrupt, that particular individual will be used to x-ray the entire system, and that is what is happening. Because once there's a miscarriage of justice, it snowballs, and this is the kind of information the society wants to hear. That's the kind of news that the newspapers will carry. If a judge gives 20 judgments in a year, in a month, nobody will want to publish that. But if you give one that suggests that there has been some undercurrent, some subterranean moves, you find out that the whole world will be let loose. So there must be, these things must be structured in such a way that there should be confidence in the system. And I don't see that being done. There must be inbuilt confidence building mechanism within the system. And I'm not seeing that being done at this moment.
I'm glad you've just taken it to the issue of confidence, which we also talked about earlier on the program. We've seen judgments being passed, and we've seen the outcry from Nigerians, especially with regards to that passed on the pension thief and some others that we just saw lately concerning the Iranian that brought in arms into the country. And people are a little bit worried that these are just isolated cases, but we have a whole lot of them, that when it comes to, well, some category of persons coming before a judge, well, the law seems to change. But when it comes to maybe the one you would want to call the ordinary Nigerian, well, they come so hard on that same individual, and he gets what they call the full weight of the law. But with others, it's almost like half measure.
Well, of course, you know that that is where the political system is structured here. And that is, of course, the agitations that have been coming, especially from the human rights community and from most of the social civil society groups. The idea is that some of these things we must have a solid platform that must be respected by the government. When you have some of these institutions and you try to build an institution around an individual, instead of bringing individuals into institutions and fortifying them, you can't talk about democracy. You cannot deepen democracy without having very firm democratic structures. And these things are meant to run on their own. They should not be operated by promptings from individuals. The structure must be very, very firm, very dynamic, and operate in such a way that there will be minimal distraction. But when you have a system like we have here, the appointing authority, of course, is key, and that extends to what we have in the appointing authority in the area of the INEC boss, and so many other institutions. So some of these things, the system must find a way of disentangling some of these things from the political machinery. And also the Nigerian Bar Association as an institution, even though the bar has its own challenges, and I am thinking that the challenges we are having at the bar at this critical moment might be more than what the judicial authorities are going through. But I think, given that platform, the lawyers should be made to be part of some of these engineering processes.
I was going to ask you the role of the lawyers who are practicing it, how they can help the judiciary come out of this quagmire, in quote. But be that as it may, the lawyers and Nigerian Bar Association, there was a time when if there's a situation that is not too clear, some lawyers, practicing lawyers, will go to courts to seek interpretation, to seek clarification. But it looks like that's not being done as much as it used to.
No, the law allows you what we call case stated. The law allows you, of course, to, if there are very strong, interpretational or constitutional issues, to step up wherever you are. If you are at the Court of Appeal, you can step up to the Supreme Court to seek clarification and then come back and continue with your matter. But the problem we have is that you cannot discuss about the judiciary without looking at the integrity of the operatives in that system and who brings them into the system. So these are issues that bother every one of us. And of course, there are some exceptions, like in Lagos State now. If they are appointing judges, of course, the different bar associations have a very strong input. But these things are being done at the discretion of the chief executive of the state, maybe because of his law background. But in some other areas, you can appoint without even asking any question. You can bring in anybody. The only constitutional requirement is that you must have been in the industry for over 10 years, and that qualifies you to be a judge. And so in some of these states, you find out that you see judges who are coming into the bench to have a feel of practical law for the first time in their lives. And that is not good for the system, because the yardstick remains the perception of the public.
Yeah,
and it must be decently handled.
And that perception, if I may say, may have taken another blow, because from what you said about Justice Okeke's statement, because in there, he seems to be giving a detailed account of how some of these things happen. He even challenged the NJC to publish the said petition against him and his response. But in the same note, Justice Alta says, well, he allowed him to say all that because he's entitled to his opinion. Now, if a judge would say, I am a victim of injustice, what happens to the ordinary man out there?
Well, even the more pathetic aspect of the fact is that he has the ambience to say that because he's presently at the exit point. And that is why I said that when he made those comments, some of the serving judges were clapping. So he made this point at the exit point.
Why would they be clapping?
The NJC is a very powerful machinery. And of course, you know that more than 50% of the members of that NJC are there at the discretion of the CJN. The CJN appoints. So it's absolutely difficult for you to roll a machinery through the NJC against the opinion of the CJN. So we have constantly agitated. Our position is that must be watered down, that the bar must be fully represented, not just having 2 or 3 lawyers and 2 senior advocates, that the bar must be actively represented, and it must be zoned, so that the population of the number of lawyers who are in practice should be higher than what we have, so that our opinion must be felt. We are the ones dealing with them on a daily basis. We know their antics. So some of